More than a dozen children found their forever homes just ahead of Mother's Day. Action News Jax Alexis Clevenger shows us the heartfelt moment families became one.
Congratulations.
And every week, Action News Jax features children looking for forever homes. If you would like to learn more about adopting or helping any of the children, head to actionnewsjax.com and click on the Forever Family banner. There's now a new Florida law aimed at improving the safety of amusement rides. It's called the Tyree Sampson Act, and it honors the life of the teen who fell to his death on a Florida free fall ride over a year ago. Now, the new law is expected to bring about extra training for ride and operators. It's also set to update requirements for reporting on maintenance and ride modifications. The Florida judge who sentenced Parkland shooter Nicholas Cruz to life in prison is resigning in April. The state Supreme Court removed Elizabeth Shire from another case. The justice cited that she showed unfair sympathy. After she handed down her sentence, Shire hugged prosecutors and family members of the victims. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed a bill that will keep his travel records a secret into law. Now, the new measure blocks law enforcement agencies from sharing any records about the governor's security and travel, either past or future. And it's not just the governor himself, it's also protecting the travel information of people whose services are requested by the governor. DeSantis said the bill, quote, wasn't his idea. Saturday marks the 31st anniversary of the National Association of Letter Carriers Stamp Out Hunger Food Drive. Jacksonville's Jim Thigpen is the president of the Jacksonville branch, and he says it's a nonprofit that works with local mail carriers all across the world to help end hunger one community at a time with their annual Stamp Out Hunger Food Drive. He explains how it works.
To be able to remind everybody that if they take their non-perishable canned foods that they'd like to donate to a local food bank, then we will be able to pick it up. They just set it out at their mailbox and the carriers will do the rest.
And that food is taken back to a local post office where food banks like Mission House and Celebration Church will come and get it, eventually distributing the food to locals in need. And your recycling could soon get a report card. The city of Jacksonville will tag non-compliant bins in a new push to encourage neighbors to recycle the right way and cut down on waste. Now, the 9-month-long education campaign will kick off in a couple of weeks. And if you did something wrong, you'll get some notes back with feedback. And the city says before the pandemic, 19% of recycling was wrong. It's since jumped to 27%.
We have to pay to take that material from the recycling place over on the north side to the landfill way over on the west side. So that wastage is costing the city about $250,000 a year.
And officials say recycling report cards have already helped bigger cities like Atlanta and Chicago. A federal judge is stopping the government from releasing migrants who are in the custody of the U.S. Customs and Border Protection without court notices. Now, the Florida judge placed a temporary block on the Biden administration in late Thursday for a court filing. It means border officials cannot use one of its key tools to try to manage the number of migrants in CBP custody. When discussing the migrant crisis in Fort Myers today, the governor said, quote, this country can't get things right anymore, and showed support for shutting down the border and building a border wall in Texas.
The other thing is, do you control the sovereignty of your country or not? I can guarantee you these other countries would not allow massive numbers of people to pour in illegally. I mean, they would put their foot down. And so clearly you should do that.
The judge's temporary block takes effect at the same time that Title 42 ends. The judge's ruling will expire in 14 days, but the Biden administration is expected to appeal. Most states have legalized or decriminalized marijuana, and that means more cannabis shops are opening around the country. But even though these businesses are legal, they don't have the same access to financing, in large part because marijuana is still criminal at a federal level. Action News Jax Samantha Manning explains a bipartisan bill that would help break down financial barriers for these business owners. A killing on a New York subway train has now led to a criminal charge. Marine veteran Daniel Penny surrendered himself to police, facing a charge of second-degree manslaughter. Witnesses said Jordan Neely had been shouting and acting erratically, throwing his jacket on the ground when Penny placed him in a chokehold. Neely was pronounced dead at the hospital. And a new report shows a dramatic increase in the numbers of catalytic converters that have been stolen. The devices contain precious metals that can be sold on the black market. This video out of Los Angeles shows a catalytic converter being stolen from a Prius. Now, two cars pull up and thieves take it in less than 2.5 minutes. And thefts more than tripled from 2020 to 2021. And new data shows another major jump last year to 64,000 thefts nationwide. The most targeted cars are certain hybrids because it contains more precious metals than standard gas cars. Security experts recommend car owners have a mechanic engrave their VIN on their converter. As people continue to adjust their daily routines after the COVID-19 pandemic, most of us continue to use disinfectants, just as we did when the pandemic was at its peak. But now new findings have researchers warning about disinfectant overuse. Action News Jax' Don Lopez explains. And spring has sprung, and so have weddings and the cost of one. Sky-high prices are moving couples to buy now, pay later options to save on their special day. The average cost for a wedding in 2022 was $30,000, which was $2,000 more than it was in 2021. And by choosing the buy now, pay later option, you can split the expense into 4 to 6 payments. But it's not always the best option, as it is easy to overspend.
Some plans, especially if you look at, a longer term plan that's beyond the 4 or 6 payments, you can end up paying some interest or fees. And lastly, you're making on-time payments with the buy now, pay later plan, but those payments are not being reported to a credit bureau typically. So even though you're making on-time payments, it's not helping your credit score.
And another way you can pay for your wedding is by taking out a personal loan that you may have a longer repayment term for. More pregnant women are looking for midwives to help with their deliveries, but getting this kind of care isn't always easy. Midwives are healthcare professionals who provide care during pregnancy, but according to a new government watchdog report, some insurance companies don't cover their services. That report also reveals that midwives may face challenges providing this care.
Medicaid reimburses at a low rate, and so therefore it becomes very difficult for midwives to stay in practice because they're not getting paid to deliver what doctors are being paid to deliver.
The report shows midwifery students are also facing barriers like high tuition cost. A new report reveals which states have the worst drivers. Forbes compared all 50 states across the metrics like drowsy, distracted, and drunk driving. Florida ranked number 17. The data shows about 11 drunk drivers are involved in deadly crashes per 100,000 licensed drivers. The study says Texas topped the list with the worst drivers, and Washington, D.C. was home to the best drivers in the nation. A local hospital surpassed its record for the number of babies delivered. In April, Ascension St. Vincent's Southside delivered 253 babies. Wow, that is the most births ever recorded at the facility in 1 month. Action News Jax told you in January when St. Vincent's Riverside location announced it would stop maternity services in March. Now, this could explain why the Southside Hospital is delivering more babies. At that time, St. Vincent's said it was working with parents to be securing a different location.